Okay, shalom everybody, Shavua Tov. We are continuing with where we left off in Rebbe Nachman's beautiful letter number 443, which was again written in the time that he was writing his beautiful discourse in the Halachot, the laws of giving thanks, the blessings of Hoda'ah, which is Birkat HaGomel, discourse number 6, which is one of the longest discourses in the Halachot, and probably one of the most powerful ones, which talk about the far-reaching power of Simcha in life and where it brings a person, and everything in life revolves around or Simcha or a lack of Simcha. It's basically that. That's for everything else. When we say we're in exile, so it's because of a lack of Simcha. Exile is that there's no Simcha. We have to try to mitchazek to be b'simcha while down, while in exile, all that type of stuff. So Rebbe Nachman in his letter, he's gonna start talking about finally about lesson 24 that he's involved with. Now again, Rebbe Nachman writes a little, but behind his words is a lot of depth. You know, Rebbe Nachman talks about this attitude. He says there's people who teach Torah, and it's very wide down here in this world, but when it goes up, it becomes narrow until almost nothing is left. You have people who elaborate, which is understood, but because of the too much elaboration and bringing down, like materializing the words of the Torah, so it's too wide here, and then the root of the Torah becomes narrow. So up in heaven, it's like this. Whereas there are tzaddikim who teach Torah in the opposite direction. They receive Torah, which is very wide up there, and then when they bring it down, it's so constricted. It's like a few ideas and few words, and you have to toil to understand the whole picture because it's narrowed down. And he says, obviously, it's better to have that attitude where it's narrowed down here and it's wide up there, because the goal is to get up there and to have a Torah which is expanded up there. It's an amazing idea. And he says also in serving Hashem, you have people who go through such tightness and dire straits in life, and in that they try to talk to Hashem, they try to serve Hashem, they try to daven, and that gives much more value than people who have it comfortable and everything is going well and everything is wide. And he says it's hinted to in King David's words, Batsar lihi chavta. There's many times he says Batsar. It's like also in Hallel, Mina metzar karatiya, that the King David cried out to Hashem a lot from the narrowness, and then from there he reached levels of Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration. And he says that's how it is ideally for a Jew, and that's how he knows that he's on the right track, and his Avodat Hashem has a value when there's a lot of tightness and constriction beginning in this world, but then it widens and widens and widens. Okay? It's a big thing. So in Rebbe Nachman, we see that he writes, he hides himself, he hides what he's thinking in his letters. He says very like external, superficial ideas seemingly, but behind it is a man who's so deep, and you see it in his Likutei Halachot. In other words, the same person who's writing these letters, and he's like writing to friends and his son and this and that, and it's just like letters, it's only letters. But the same person who's writing these letters is the same person who wrote the discourses in the Likutei Halachot, which are just unbelievable. And he's the same person who recorded all of Rebbe Nachman's teachings, which are super high, super deep, but at the same time, Rebbe Nachman's teachings, you feel they're talking to you. How it works, how Breslov works, is it gives like a zap and then takes it away. There's a connection, wow. It's like a light, wow. It's talking to me, and then it's taken away. And you have to now search and dig in order to research more and discover more. They don't just put everything on a silver platter. Okay, it's all here, all for the eating. It's like all you can eat buffet table. You're given a taste. They show you that there's something here, and then they remove it. Okay, this is one of the things that people are a bit scared of in Breslov, about Breslov, is that it's like opaque. It's like, in and out. Again, in and out. The idea we mentioned many times. It's shining, but then it's like, it's taken out. It's like removed. So because of that, people are scared to jump in. They don't know where we're going into. But someone who has tasted this awesome light in Rebbe Nachman's teachings and being changed and like nothing else, so these type of people say, I'm running after this light. It's like the pasuk says in Song of Songs, Moshcheni acharecha narutza. Run after me. In other words, draw me close to you, and I will run after you. Okay? Moshcheni, pull me to you, and I'll come running towards you. It's from Song of Songs, Shir Shirim. Moshcheni acharecha narutza. Moshcheni, in other words, give me an indicator that you're drawing me to you, but it's like moshech, it's like a rope, but it's pulling slowly. On my part, acharecha narutza, I'll run. So again, this is Rav Nosson, the beauty of Rav Nosson. How on one hand he's able to explain and write, but at the same time, there's that reserved part that you have to dig. And that's what we're trying to do in these letters, to see the reserved part of Rav Nosson, how he hints to what he's thinking about, what he's learning, what he's teaching, etc. So we're holding now finally, at a part of a letter that he openly talks about this discourse. We saw an earlier letter from like 1830 something, if you remember, that he went into part of a discourse that he wrote also on this lesson about Parashat Vayera and Avram Avinu and Yitzchak. And here now, B'ezrat Hashem, he's going to go explaining us more from the perspective he's having of this lesson. So he says like this: V'hineh ata kol iski behatorah tisha echalin delav inu nehorin v'chule. And behold, now all of my involvement, look at his wording, kol iski, I am now totally involved. Everything I'm doing is around and involved in this lesson from the Likutei Moharan, the Torah, the lesson 24. And Rav Nosson doesn't call it by the name that it's called officially. Each lesson in the Likutei Moharan has a name. They worked hard, Rav Nosson and his son, I think. They gave a title to each lesson in Likutei Moharan, which is taken from the opening idea. So the name of this lesson officially is called Emtsauta D'Alma, the center of the universe, because that's the beginning of the challenge that was posed from the wise men of Athens to Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya, where they asked him, where's the center of the universe? That's why and Rebbe Nachman's whole lesson is based on that one little question and answer, the debate between the wise men of Athens and Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. Where's the center of the universe? Rav Nosson doesn't call it that name. He starts going in to the goal of the lesson. So he says, behold, my whole involvement now is in the lesson, and he calls it, he's quoting now from the Zohar. We mentioned this many times in the past, that Rebbe Nachman in this lesson, 24, touches upon one of the deepest parts of the Zohar. It's in Parshat Noach of the Zohar, page 65a, where it talks about the 9 chambers. There's 9 chambers, the lav inu nehorin, and these 9 chambers, it's a very deep statement, but just at least to hear the statement. There are 9 chambers which are not light, and they're not spirit, and they're not upper soul, okay? And they are touchable and not non-touchable. So they're not known, they don't make themselves known, they're non-reachable, okay? And yet, we connect to them. He says basically these 9 chambers are made by the 3 sections of the mind. There's what's called Chochmah, Binah, Daa't, wisdom, knowledge, understanding. And in order for a person's wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to create a vessel to receive bounty and blessing from the infinite light, the mind has to be in a state that it's unaware and yet aware. 2 opposites in one. So he says in this lesson, if you just recap, that the power of Simcha, when a Jew taps into genuine Simcha, is that it enables his mind to pursue the infinite light, but not to reach it, because it hits a wall, and the wall is called the keter. The keter does not allow a person's perception, his intellect, his mind to go further. We see this in life, that a person gets very intellectually stimulated. You have in the secular world, people have that, but especially in the world of Torah, when a person enters like powerful chambers of the Torah, any level, if it's Gemara, Midrash, Zohar, the Tanakh, Pshat, Remez, Drash, Sod, any level, when Hashem opens the person's mind to the Torah and he's excited, he's wow, and he's overwhelmed, so the mind begins to pursue. It's the nature, it's the tendency of a mind to run after light. But here, there's a danger in that if a person absorbs too much, he can't handle that light and he'll over-expire. That's as in everything in life, okay? So here he teaches in this lesson that if you build a solid foundation on being happy no matter what in life and doing your best to serve Hashem with even minimal joy and appreciating every tiny thing with Simcha, even if it's incomplete, it's a gateway to activate the mind. And the mind starts pursuing. Hashem allows you to have a glimpse of some godly perception and your mind starts running forward. But like we said, that's not the way to perceive. That's not the way to receive blessing. You want to disappear? That's the way to disappear. A person wants to melt and disintegrate and become an angel or not to be in this world anymore. That's the way. But Hashem doesn't want that. Hashem wants you, while being in a physical body, to have access to this light. Two opposites. So how does it happen? The mind, the person's mind, which contains three sections: wisdom, knowledge, understanding. Each one is understood. They work separately, independently, but they work together. There's wisdom, knowledge, understanding. Understanding is Binah, when you're developing. Lavin davar mitoch davar. Binah means I'm able to build. You give me one idea, from that I can develop. It's a development of ideas. Wisdom is the initial building blocks of pieces of information, like 1, 2, 3. Pieces of information is wisdom. Knowledge is after combining the wisdom with the understanding, then you get knowledge. Now each one works independently, but they also work together. So when a person is busy trying to be happy, and the positivity that he draws upon himself allows for the mind to be a vessel, the mind meaning the three sections of the brain, to be a vessel to receive, to advance. So that pushes the mind forward, and it's going up and up and up and up. But for the person now to receive the infinite light, that's not the way. There's a wall called the keter. The mind, so to speak, of the person bashes into this wall, and when rebounded backwards, the sections of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding become multiplied, become intertangled so much that it becomes not 3, but 3 times 3. Because you have now the perception of, let's say, Chochmah being 1, and then Binah 2, and then Daa't. But you can also have Chochmah, Daa't, Binah. Okay. And now with Binah, I can have Binah, Chochmah, Daa't, and I can have Binah, Daa't, Chochmah. And then with Daa't, I can have Daa't, Chochmah, Binah. If you add those combinations, there's 9 in total. 9 combinations for each one, meaning the positioning of where understanding comes into place, where knowledge, where wisdom, it all becomes mingled because of the bouncing into the wall. So that means the person's mind is mumbled. He's not there at the time because of the bouncing into this wall. This wall in life appears in setbacks. For example, a person's on a high, wow, and he's davening. All of a sudden he gets a phone call from his wife. Come now, the baby's red, we have to go to the hospital right now. And he's just floating on davening and everything. He has to drop everything, go pick up his daughter, go to the hospital, this, that. And what happened? I was on cloud number 9. A person is having a good day with a lot of uplifting spirituality. And all of a sudden the food got burnt and this phone call, and all of a sudden it's an unexpected bill. Everything just to sway you off, and you're like, what happened? So Rebbe Nachman teaches, this is part of the process. Take it easy. Don't say, what did they do to me? I thought I was on the right path. The answer is, you are on the right path. This is exactly how it's supposed to be, that if you continue with that attitude of light, then you're not supposed to be in this world. This world is a constriction. The goal is to bring light into the constriction. Now, if you are just too much light, and an uplifted feeling and a very high consciousness, so you can never, you're at that point, you're detached from day-to-day living. You're detached. You're not living your life. You're on a different zone. It's like the Jews when they left Egypt. I mentioned this, I think, earlier. The Jews, when they left Egypt, they were on such a high. and people ask them, the Egyptians, you're not preparing provisions? All you have is matzah for 30 days. And they said, Ein lanu ela divrei ben Amr. Whatever Moshe Rabbeinu tells us, whatever, no provisions, you're going to a desert. You're over 1 million people. And you have matzah for 30 days for 1 million people and their animals and the children. Where were they? They were on a high. On a high. And we see that because afterwards when they faced Amalek, they started complaining. And then they're complaining about the water in the desert, complaining about the food in the desert, complaining that they're suffering, like this week's parsha, where it's so long. Sorry, last week's parsha in Israel, Ba'alotcha, that they're complaining. We miss Egypt, we miss the free fish and the watermelons and everything. We miss all the good food, right? So that how could it be? Where were they? How come they weren't like that in the beginning? Because the person, when he's on a high, he's not in true reality. I personally remember when I got married, and the time before I got married, I was on such a high, such a spiritual high, because of Breslov. Rebbe Nachman's teachings are very good for giving a person light. You want a lot of light? Learn Breslov. There's much more than light in Rebbe Nachman's teachings. There's eternal light. There's way to succeed. But initially, for a person to get in, they have to shine a lot of light to that person to convince him that this is the address, this is where to be. Okay? So I just remember personally, there was a lot of light at the beginning in marriage and beginning of serving Hashem and everything. But that's not the goal. Where I am today, with less light, I'm more appreciative and I wouldn't exchange what I have today than what I had back then. To say, back then I was such a devotee, I was so much connected, and I regret now because of then, wrong. No. Even with all the upside downness of life, a person's in a better position much later in life because of what he went through. The challenges build a person like nothing else. Nothing else. The setbacks and difficulty and everything. And the person thinks, how am I ever going to advance? And the answer is, this is how you advance. Again, I always say, you see the Chafetz Chaim's smiley face on the cover of the book, Chafetz Chaim. So you get the image, he was always smiling, always happy, what a tzaddik. But they don't show you what he went through. They don't tell you about all the ups and downs and all the setbacks and how difficult it was for him to print his Mishnah Berurah and all of his books. You think everything is always smiling? You know how much what he went through? Every tzaddik to become who they became because they went through exactly what we're going through. The difference is they kept on getting up. They kept on getting up. It takes our time to get up because we're so broken and this and that, but it's part of the picture. So going back, he says, Rebbe Nachman, that when your mind hits the wall of the keter, which is preventing you from accessing the infinite light as you are, because you'll disappear, you'll disintegrate. Like we said many times, you are finite, and this light is infinite. Two opposites. A finite being cannot contain infinite light. So how does it work? You're bounced back. Your mind is mixed up. The Chochmah, Binah, Daa't. This itself creates 9 chambers. Each new from the 3 became 3 times 3, 9. What you actually are doing are creating vessels from your mind, even though you're out of it. You have no idea what's happening in life. I have no idea what Hashem is doing to me. What am I doing here? Changing diapers now, shopping. We're wasting time and running after this. And I feel like I could be doing better things in my life. Dafka then, your mind has, because it's built out of Simcha once again. You're someone who's trying to be positive and enthusiastic and good, etc. So the benefit is that these 9, the 9 created from the initial Chochmah Binah Daa't become vessels that fill in a light that remains inaccessible. You have no idea about it. You have no clue what the world is happening with this light. You're not aware about it. It's happening though. You're taught to believe, like the Zohar says, Rebbe Nachman quotes the Zohar, that these 9 chambers are created and they fill you in with this light which is inaccessible, but you'll see subconsciously in life the benefit of these 9 chambers filling in infinite light. You will see in life things changing without you knowing about it. Only 10 years later, you began to look back and you say, oh, I can't believe what I went through. And the way I thought out things, and I can't believe what I did and how I got. And you yourself, you're amazed of how Hashem helped you out and your perception is, wow, look how I'm thinking now. And look how I was thinking back then. And look how I got to where I am today. absolute gift. I had no idea it happened. That's how life works, okay? That's the goal of this lesson. And that's why he says Simcha is so important, because Simcha is going to bring you to the right address in life. You have no idea the address. I'm getting older now, like everyone else, whatever. And every time you reach like a new decade, you begin to think differently. You see things differently. You see how you were 10 years ago, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, how you were thinking. And even now, things changed. You thought family life, the family existence, this and that, everything. And then things totally change. And they change in such a way, you're not scared anymore of, oh, what's going to happen if this happens? You're not scared anymore, because the level of bitachon has become so enhanced. You're open to all the scenarios that Hashem is going to send you, because you believe and you see that Hashem loves you and He only wants you to come to your tikkun. Where it is, what it is, you have no idea. You thought A, B, C, I'm going to start a family. When you get married, people, start planning. They're planning the wardrobe, planning the furniture, planning the house, where we're going to live, how the house to set up, and how I like my kitchen, how I like my living room, how I want the books, and by the man, what type of books he wants to learn, and this and that. And then 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, things have totally changed. A different person in a way. This, thanks to Simcha. Because a person is working on being with Simcha, it's so beneficial that it brings a person to his tikkun. Because again, this world is called Olam, world. Olam mean concealment. Meaning what? That everything's concealed in life. Your tikkun in life, you have no idea what Hashem wants to make out of it. You have no idea. You assume, I grew up in Brooklyn, or I grew up in New York, I grew up in here, and that's the hashkafa, and I'm just going to go with that. You have no idea where Hashem wants to bring you from point A to point B. You have no idea. But how to get to it is if you take a simcha attitude. So then, with the 9 chambers being formed, and it's accessing a light above Gemara, above Shas, above Kabbalah, above Zohar, above what other people are talking about and thinking, you are guided from a higher force. We're not saying chas v'shalom that a person should therefore, because of that, leave the general Torah world. Chas v'shalom. We don't even budge from halacha. We have rabbanim, poskim, and everything. We're not talking about that at all. But in your personal journey, it's your personal journey. You're not like, in Hasidic groups, which the rest of us are against, is everyone is identical. Everyone the same shtaimel, the same bekisha, the same type of glasses, and they're meant to be robots like stormtroopers and like in a soldier in an army. The beauty about being a soldier as a Jew, that each soldier has a unique skills. Each one has unique skills, and we're not the same. One is expert in bazooka, one is expert in mountain climbing, one is expert in being a sniper, one is expert in helicopter. Everyone has an expertise differently. We're all part of the army of Hashem, yes, but we're each unique. We can't, we're all dressed the same and we act the same. It's not like that. Each one's unique. You have a tikkun. The tzaddikim are here to help each person to bring you to your potential. That's for sure. That's why there's tzaddikim. You learn Torah, you go to your shul, you hear the rabbi's sermon, everything, fine and dandy. But to come for your tikkun, which means that I don't have to come back to this world again. I finish my mission in this world and it's done. Because just because you're living a normal, firm life doesn't mean you won't come back again. What if you were in this world and you missed the point? They say, listen, my friend, you didn't do what we sent you to come to do, so you have to go back again. What? Tzaddikim are there who know your neshama inside out. Rebbe Nachman says that tzaddikim, they have the eyes of Hashem. I think we said this many times. It's a pasuk in Tehillim. Enei Hashem el tzaddikim. We say it every Shabbos morning in the extra psalms added by Shacharis in the morning. The eyes of Hashem are to the tzaddikim. So Rebbe Nachman says, what does that mean? The tzaddikim have Hashem's X-ray eyes. Hashem gives His eyes. Enei Hashem el tzaddikim. The pshat is of the verse, Hashem's eyes are upon the tzaddikim to protect them. That's the pshat. But Rebbe Nachman reads it like this. He says Hashem's eyes are in the tzaddikim. Hashem gives His eyes to the tzaddikim. Meaning what? When the tzaddikim, why they're there? Why do you need a tzaddik? You need a tzaddik because he has X-ray vision. He sees inside of you. He sees your neshama, who you are, who you were, your reincarnations, and what's your mission. And he will give you guidelines in life to help navigate to get to that. It's all in the Torah, but it's hidden. You need tzaddikim to sift out of the Torah what's hidden in the depths of the Torah, to bring it out and to make the right combination, the right, combination of different herbs and spices to make the right right recipe that fits and matches, like tailor-made for you, B'ezrat Hashem. All right? So this is the idea of the 9 chambers. So Rebbe Nachman calls the lesson based on the goal. He says, now my whole involvement is in the lesson 9 chambers that are not light, he's quoting the Zohar. The Zohar says they're not light. Light, nehora in Aramaic, is referring to the lower soul, because the light of a person, what gives light to the vision, what gives light to a person is the lower soul. The part of spirituality that's most connected to the body is the nefesh. On Shabbat we have neshama yetera, we go up ruach neshama, and in the day it's expected of a Jew in his devotions of the day to go up and connect to the ruach and neshama. But the part that's always 24/7, with the Jew is his nefesh, the lower soul. Okay, it's what makes you move. Even a Gentile has a nefesh. He has a nefesh. It's a different category, but he also has a nefesh. What's making me move is not the blood and the sinews and the nerves. Behind that all is the nefesh, which spreads out throughout the whole body and allows the body to move. If there's no nefesh, there's no movement. Okay, so it's called light because that's what gives light and to the body, which is dead without the nefesh. So it's light, and he says these 9 chambers, they're above the nefesh, above the ruach, above the neshama. In other words, these chambers created by the 3 being banged into the wall and being multiplied 3 times 3 is now creating a vessel which is above everything else. Also in the Torah, you have levels of accessibility. You have levels of the Torah which are nefesh. You have levels of the Torah which are ruach, and levels of the Torah which are neshama. Right? They say there's like pshat, remez, drash, sod. Each one has a different corresponding level of the Torah. These 9 chambers are above everything else. Above everything else. And the chidush is, Rebbe Nachman says, every Jew can access it by just being happy. By being happy, you reach levels above normal. You connect to things which are beyond what's expectation. Judaism is not like going to university, okay, I took a course in Chumash, a Torah course in Mishnayot, a course in halacha, so I'm now authorized and ordained. That's not Judaism. Judaism is the Torah is like a stepping stone for something higher. It's a means to connect to Hashem. That's the idea. Torah is Torah or light, also Horah, instruction. Every part of the Torah, even parts of the Torah which have nothing to do with me, like they're learning now in Masechet Chuli, in the laws of the animals and the Shechita and everything. What does that have to do with me? Like the parts of the Korbanot and everything. Every part of the Torah is a stepping stone for something deeper. Now the average Jew can't tap into that. But he says here, Rebbe Nachman's lesson, just following this simple advice of being a happy Jew and trying to be happy and working on it and investing on it and finally reaching a point where you can be happy in serving Hashem, this opens the door to this big light of the 9 chambers and the infinite light that it fills in. And so that means you bypassed the whole procedure of finishing the whole Torah, all the Chumash, Tanakh, Mishnah, Gemara, and only then coming to these levels. Like some people say, little Joe Schmo, what are you aiming for such high aspirations? Become a simple Jew, learn Aleph Bet, learn basics of Judaism. The answer is no, because people today, before Mashiach comes, we're so weighed down by the exile, and the exile meaning sadness, that even if a Jew, he can be a master of every area of the Torah, but if he has no simcha in life, he missed the point. The goal of the Torah is to make him besimcha. So because of that, we have to reverse the order, and we have to first work on being besimcha, because the weighing down of exile is so severe today. People are down. You go on the buses, everyone's sad. You go on the trains, everyone's running after their work. No one's smiling. You go to places, no one's smiling. And if they smile, it's all fake smiles, right? No one's happy. No one is happy, truly happy of their existence, because they're just worried about how am I going to pay the bills, how am I going to do this and this, and my child is going to be problems now, and all these things. So people are not happy. And then take it, even people who learn Torah, or they run away from their problems to go to they learn Torah in order to run away from their problems, and then when they close the books of the Torah, their problems are still there. Okay, so showing that something's missing, so the tzaddikim come along, of high caliber tzaddikim, show us work on being besimcha. This will be a vessel for everything else. You can then learn Torah properly. you can daven properly, you can connect to Hashem, even though you're just as you are. Okay? That's fascinating. That's this lesson. So he calls it, Rav Nosson, the 9 chambers that are not light, not spirit, not upper soul. They're way above that. Okay? And then he says like this, Rav Nosson. But before that, what was amazing is Rav Nosson says, my whole esek. There's many things in life, but he says now I've taken myself to be totally immersed in this lesson. Because Rebbe Nachman did say that. He said that you should take a lesson of his and go into it. Go into it. You find all of your life explained in that lesson. When you go into a lesson, you learn it carefully, then you dive into Hashem about it, because that's why there's prayers. Rav Nosson wrote prayers to help you to daven about these ideas, because the main bridge between potential and actual is davening. If you don't daven about things, you don't get things moving. There's the davening about it. There's Rav Nosson, how he develops these ideas. It's like a whole world. It's a whole world. I tell people this always. You enter a lesson like Likutei Moharan, it's a whole construct. It has a head, it has a heart, and it has legs. It's a whole structure, and everything you need can be in one lesson. That's the beauty of Rebbe Nachman's teachings. It's fascinating. Every part of your life becomes opened up and be analyzed and seen from the lens of this lesson with a proper perspective, with a positive perspective of hope, Ezat Hashem. And even when things in life get difficult, you can always turn to the lesson, even subconsciously, the ideas are there. Okay, Simcha now, Simcha, Simcha. And even when things go crazy, and normally you should forget about being b'simcha, Hashem sends in your subconscious, because your reflex has been developed to work so much, like in this example of the Simcha, so you turn to it even when you're out of it, it just comes to you. It's phenomenal. Phenomenal, life-changing, and life-saving ideas. And then he says like this, Rav Nosson, and because the main thing is what comes out of the lesson. And he doesn't forget that. You can delve into a lesson and develop, beautiful, nice. Va'ikar she'ezke ani v'cholanu lekayem ma shekatuv sham. But the main thing is that Rav Nosson saying about himself, as great as he is, that he brings himself down to being very simple and down to earth. She'ezke ani, that I should merit, and all of us should merit, to fulfill what's mentioned there in that lesson, the Likutei Moharan, lesson 24. What? Sha'ikar hu simchat mitzvah, sha'yada mevarerin mehechalei hatmurot v'chule. He just said it in a nutshell, that the main thing is simcha in serving Hashem. Simchat mitzvah is not just when you're actually doing the common mitzvahs that you think of tefillin, Shabbat, Yom Kippur, tzedakah, saying a bracha over food, eating matzah, okay, the standard mitzvah that we know about. Simchat HaMitzvah can be 24/7, because like the famous Mishnah Berurah, in his opening paragraph of the section of the Mishnah Berurah called the Bir Halacha, he brings down 6 mitzvah that a Jew can do constantly by thought. There's 6 mitzvah he brings, that just by thinking about certain ideas in life, it's a mitzvah. So technically, based on what the Mishnah Berurah says there in the Bir Halacha, a Jew can 24/7, if he wants to be connected to a mitzvah. And now, with that in mind, you can do it also b'simcha. So he says here, the main thing is the simcha of the mitzvah. Rav Nosson says in some place, I still haven't found where it's written, but it's brought down in a book called A Bit More Advice in English, Etzot HaMevorot. He brings down there, the descendant of Rebbe Nachman, Rav Shimshon Barsky, that Rav Nosson writes that the simcha of the mitzvah is even greater than the mitzvah itself. The simcha in doing a mitzvah bypasses the actual command. But what's the thing? The only way to get to this simcha is specifically through the mitzvah. You won't get to the simcha by partying and going to a pub, chas v'shalom, and partying Saturday night and doing crazy things. You won't get to the simcha. The simcha is specifically in the parameters, the ramifications of halacha, of Torah law, of the mitzvot prescribed by the Torah and their derivatives, the mitzvah d'Rabbana and mitzvah d'Oraita, okay? All those, that's how you get to true simcha. Now, once you get to that simcha, bravo, tada, you got it. That's the goal. The goal of the tefillin is to do it b'simcha. The goal of davening is to do it b'simcha. The goal of Shabbat is to do it b'simcha. the goal of raising a family, Talmud Torah, and a home, a Jewish home, mezuzah and everything, is the simcha and behind in doing it. That's the goal. It's not easy. We know that because we see ourselves. By the majority of the time, we just do mitzvot like status quo out of routine. Everything's routine every day, day in, day out, every year, every week, another Shabbos, every year, another Rosh Hashanah, another shofar. Okay, and you get used to it. And the thing is, to tap into that simcha. And if you do, you won the jackpot. Shaikahu simchat mitzvah. That through this mitzvah, the Rebbe Nachman's terminology, he jumps right to what Rebbe Nachman says at the end of the lesson. Through the simcha and doing a mitzvah, you're able to clarify from the chamber of exchanges. We spoke about this a few times, if you remember, the concept of the chamber of exchanges, which is basically the situation we are in exile. Everything's messed up. Everything's mixed up and messed up and upside down. And we're not in our right place. And when a person is not in his right place, he's not happy. The goal, Rebbe Nachman says, is even though you're not in your right place, to build a fake simcha until you do come to a genuine simcha through that. And once you do that, you can extract your simcha, your particles of holiness, your particles of mitzvah, your particles of the divine presence that are connected to you, that are trapped in exile, that are trapped in the domain of evil, to extract them and bring them back to the rightful place. So the chambers of exchanges is that the good is placed in bad, what's proper is placed in improper, holiness and unholiness, purity and impurity, good and evil, everything is mixed up. My way to get out is by being besimcha. Even though my simcha is dependent on those parts of me that are stuck in the exile, Rebbe Nachman says, nonetheless, fake it till you make it. Fake the simcha until you come to genuine simcha from another place, not dependent on what was taken away from you. How can I be besimcha? I grew up in Alabama. I grew up with a secular family. How do you want me to be simcha serving Hashem? If I was brought up in Borough Park or Williamsburg and had a frum family, okay, but I wasn't. Mixed up family, intermarriage, parents fighting, beating up, molesting, chas v'shalom, all these crazy things that are happening to people today. And they use that as a justification. So what do you want from me if I'm upside down? What do you expect from me if I'm upside down? When that one says, okay, but the but is, you can or use it as an excuse to stay there, or you can find a way out. To find a way out, if you look at what you're missing, you'll never get out. So what to do? You have to create a fake simcha. That's why he's so into Rebbe Nachman, the Fabulous Five, where we spoke about many times, telling jokes, putting on music. You're in a bad mood, but you put on music, okay? Music that gets you really inspired, okay? Dancing, hand clapping, and then you begin to find your little bit of good points, even though they're not enough to bring you back to life, but still focusing on the good brings a positive spirit feeling upon you, and also giving thanks to Hashem for the tiny things that are overlooked. And then finally, the simcha of the future, that in the end, everything's going to work out. You have no simcha here right now, but you believe and you know and you connect to the future, that in the end, everything's going to work out. So these are the 5 ways Rebbe Nachman teaches of drawing fake simcha, making it real, and then infusing that to being happy and doing whatever mitzvah that you can do. Even if you're an upside down Alabama person or Timbuktu or whatever, East LA, whatever, okay? So this is the main thing, is the simcha is what extracts a person from the chamber of exchanges. This is such a big statement. People don't know how big it is. The main thing is doing mitzvot b'simcha. Through that, you come out of the chamber of exchanges. You're stuck. You're far. You're Baal Tshuva, convert, or Noachide, whatever. You want out. You want to come closer to Hashem. Your way out is simchat mitzvah. Okay, and then he goes on, Rav Nosson. Veholchin, ve'olin, umekablin, birkat ha'sechel, v'mesader, v'me'ashev. That's the first level. First level, beginning point, is being besimcha and doing a mitzvah, and that releases from the chamber of exchanges. Next level, then you cause a spiritual arousal and awakening, and the person, along with the holiness that he extracted from the chamber of exchanges, which is enhancing his joy, it allows him to go forward and be elevated, ascend, and to receive what's called the blessing of the intellect. Like we said earlier, the mind is opened up. When a person is happy, the intellect becomes opened up. There's a blessing in the intellect. What does it mean, a blessing of the intellect? That there's a clarity that a person didn't have beforehand, and it's due to the Simcha. And this blessing of the intellect opens up what's called the organizing and structuring and settling of the mind. Rebbe Nachman throws everything. He's like summarizing the whole lesson now in one-liners. It's unbelievable. Rebbe Nachman explains very deeply. Rebbe Nachman like just throws it in one combination. Then a person goes and is elevated and receives the blessing of the intellect and the organizing and structuring of the mind, which is the prerequisite to hit the keter. In other words, the mind that is pursuing, that we mentioned earlier, the Chochmah, Binah, Daa't, the three that become 9, for them to pursue, they have to be settled and organized. Okay, so the settling and organized happen in 2 ways. There's number 1, before hitting the keter, and number 2, after being bounced by the keter, it also causes the mind to be settled. Why? Because when a person is spiritually, mentally aroused, so he's in running mode. The person wants to pursue more and pursue more. But the way to make the mind into 9 chambers is that the wall forces the person to go back. And when a person is bounced back, so he stops. He's going backwards now. He stops from the forward momentum. And this pushback is meant to settle the mind and organize the mind. Or the order that he says here, to organize the mind and to settle the mind. And once the mind is organized and settled, at that time, the mind becomes 3 times 3. You're befuddled, you're not clear in what you're trying to pursue, but the benefit is that the mind is stopped pursuing, so becomes now settled. And this settling allows for the 3 to become intertwined, 3 times 3. Okay? So on one hand, it's a mix-up of the mind in relation to what you're trying to perceive, but the benefit is that the mind is stopped pursuing, so there's time to settle the mind and organize it. And then he adds, another point in the lesson, he's going into the deep parts of the lesson. This together, though, together with drawing faith to the mind and the settling of the mind. This is an important point, that because a person tries to be b'simcha, when he has setbacks in life, he's able to accept them with emunah. In other words, emunah works together with the simcha. The simcha is the key to allow emunah to help you accept the setbacks in life. Your emunah, he's saying, Rebbe Nachman, basically on one foot, is dependent on how much you're trying to be b'simcha in life. Even to be b'simcha in life, you need emunah, for sure. The prerequisite to be happy about what you're going through in life, to be happy to value the little good things, requires belief that you believe that there's a value in what to be happy about. Fine. So there's an emunah, which is a prerequisite for simcha, but there's a higher level of emunah that once you almost have had it all, you almost reached the top, and then you get pushed back down in life, to be able to accept everything and to get back up and start again, that requires a higher level of emunah. And that higher level of emunah is a result of the simcha. Phenomenal what he's saying here, okay? So all these things, and in other words, these next levels, leaving the chamber of exchanges, and then the mind gets the blessing of the intellect and becomes settled and organized, and then on top of that, drawing emunah to the intellect and the organizing of the mind. Phenomenal, he's saying, Rebbe Nachman. He's like explaining it totally differently than it's portrayed in the lesson, that it's set out in the lesson, until the mind hits that wall, that curtain, the prisa, which is the keter. Venasin tishai chalin, and are made the 9 chambers that I mentioned in the beginning. Rebbe Nachman summarized the whole lesson, and now he says like this: Ashrei mi sheyirdof machshavto lahasig hasagot elu v'chule. Fortunate is the person whose mind runs to perceive such perceptions, even though he can't grasp them. Nonetheless, the person is running after it. He's running after something that he can't grasp. But he's not saying, why should I waste my time running after something that I can't grasp. Let me run after something which is tangible. The answer is no. You're running after something which is intangible, because that's the only way to fill yourself with a light which is beyond tangibility, with infinite light, that it should shine into your day-to-day living and cause those miracles, cause those breakthroughs, allow for things to happen to bring you to the right address that we spoke about in the beginning, okay? So this Rav Nosson, what he says here, is also put in by Rav Nosson in the lesson. In the lesson, Rav Nosson has a bracket, and he adds these words also. Fortunate is the person whose mind runs after these perceptions. And we're going to finish with this. Rav Nosson says then, Ashreinu elef alafim v'ribo revavot pa'amim b'chol et v'rega. How fortunate are we? How fortunate are we? Thousands upon thousands, myriads upon myriads of times, every moment and second, moment and time, shezachinu lishmoa v'lirod b'sefer dvarim kailu. To hear such ideas, which you don't hear every day, and to see them written in a book, that we have merited to hear such teachings. Rav Nosson was there when Rebbe Nachman gave live these lessons. So he was also to hear these lessons, and to see afterwards he put it into writing, and to see in a book, and these ideas are now written in actual text. To see such ideas which are so high, anyone with a modicum of a brain can see that these ideas are so high. Okay, let's stop here because this is just too much. All right, that was phenomenal. And Rav Nosson is going to develop how great is this lesson, how it's such a gift from heaven to have this idea that Simcha is the key to come to everything you need to come to in life. Just to know that is the greatest gift of life. It's the greatest mafteh. It's a lifesaver. When you're told you want out, you want to get out, work on being b'simcha. When you're taught that, and you're told that this is the direction to take in life, because there's 5,000 options in life, there's 5 million options, and then tzaddikim say, take this option. And it's close to you, it's not far. I'm not happy. Okay, so fine, like I said, tell jokes, do silliness, fake it, fake the simcha. That you can do. You're not happy because you have nothing, of course you're not happy. That's why you're stuck. You're not happy. So you have to go elsewhere to find fake simcha until it becomes real, and then you come to these levels that he's talking about. No one's heard of such a thing. The 9 chambers, the infinite light, the blessing of the intellect. What in the world? And yet it's accessible. It accesses you to lights which are super higher than you are, yes. And you might think, so why do I need such high lights? You'll need them because the what's it called? The after effect of these lights is super strong enough to help you. When a person is stuck in a pit, you can't just pull him up with a rope. You need a bulldozer to come to bring down the rope and pull him up with the bulldozer. In other words, the deeper you are stuck, the more of a force you need to pull you out. Even though, why don't I need such a bulldozer? I'm just one person. Yeah, but you're so stuck that you need a super strong dosage of whatever to get you out. Even though you're not using the full capacity of what's helping you, that energy level, still, that's what's needed to get you out. Because based on where you're so low in darkness, you need a super duper strong light to pull you out. Even though I don't need that light. But now for the capacity that it does to lift you up, just for that, you have to say thank you. That's what I need. So standard Torah, standard holiness, standard assistance and advice is not enough for a person who's trapped in the chamber of exchanges. A person is really stuck in darkness. He has to aim high. Rebbe Nachman says elsewhere, the more a person is sick, the greater a doctor he needs. It's obvious. A person with a major disease doesn't go to the general GP, general practitioner. He goes to the best doctors. So too, when a person is really stuck, and today we're almost all stuck in this galut, so standard Torah is not enough anymore. We need a high level dosage, even though I don't, what do I need these ideas? Okay, but you're stuck. Because you're stuck, you need that assistance to get out. Once you're out, go to basic Judaism. No one's stopping you. No one's saying no. Go back to be a simple Jew and everything, but you have to get out. For that getting out, you need an initial boost from a high level of Torah. Okay? Thank you for joining, everybody. People are writing comments like crazy. I can see on the notes here. If you can send me the notes, please, on WhatsApp. And when you have comments or just feedback, I don't have time and ability to read all the notes here. It can be sent to me on WhatsApp. The number is 732-800-1863. It's an American number, +1 732-800-1863. You can ask questions, feedback, or just say hi, or by email, breslov-therapy, breslov therapy@gmail.com. Thank you for joining. Have an amazing week, and Rebbe Nachman's teachings really shine to everybody to lift us up as a Hashem. All the best. Shalom, shalom.